responsive. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Many people more are using public transport nowadays, particularly the railways, and that's notwithstanding the extortionate fares which train operating companies extract from their customers for the cheap but not very cheerful service that they usually get, particularly on commuter lines. I very much welcome the increased use of public transport because it reduces carbon emissions and, generally speaking, is better for the environment. However, Mr. Speaker, there's been two acts of monumental folly affecting the railway industry during the last 50 years. Firstly, the decision in the early 1960s by the Conservative government of the day to let Dr. Beeching butcher Britain's network of branch lines linking communities throughout the country. And secondly, the decision by another Conservative government to privatise the railways in the early 90s, a decision which not even the arch privatiser, Mrs. Thatcher, even she had the good sense not to go down that route. And of course this has meant that the taxpayer has been paying vastly more in subsidy to the train operating companies and to the network than it ever paid pro rata to British Rail. And I hope, Mr. Speaker, the coalition and the Minister will not, over this decision, make it three monumental follies in a row. Mr. Speaker, the coalition's proposal is that we spend £32 billion on a new rail project from London to Birmingham by 2026 and then to Leeds and Manchester by 2032, allegedly saving 30 minutes travelling time from Birmingham, 50 minutes from Manchester. The fact that business people invariably travel first class and can use their computers and communications networks while travelling, while others will remain in Birmingham, Leeds and Manchester and hold meetings using video conferencing facilities, is dismissed by the vested interest groups who see a massive tranche of public money which they would like to access. So we're prepared to commit at this time £17 billion, the estimated cost from London to Birmingham, at a time when ordinary people are facing massive reductions in their living standards, living under threat of losing their jobs, watching their community services like libraries, Sure Start centres and centres for elderly people being axed in order to get business people from Birmingham to London 30 minutes sooner. And that's always assuming, Mr. Speaker, that there aren't high-speed leads on the line and that the high-speed signalling equipment actually works. No wonder, time is very limited, forgive me. No wonder the Birmingham Post's online survey showed 75% respondents against this project. So what are the other inflated claims made for this project? It said that the project will help diminish regional inequalities and promote growth. But there's no evidence of that. If you look at what happened in Japan, Spain and France, the high-speed connections have benefited the hub much more than it's benefited the outward communities. Furthermore, what about the effect that this project is going to have on towns and cities that High-Speed 2 will bypass? The Deputy Leader of Coventry has said that the plans for High-Speed 2 send a very clear message, and I quote, that Coventry is not a place to stop. Well, bearing in mind what the member for Coventry North West said about Birmingham, that might not be a bad idea. As Deputy Speaker, where high-speed trains do work is in countries which have large land masses, but in other countries, smaller ones, they take resources from humbler but more needed schemes such as upgrading existing networks, signalling and infrastructure. Unfortunately, we all know as politicians that unveiling a new signal box tends to appeal less to all politicians than inaugurating a futuristic new service. The other exaggerated claims have already been dealt with, but time is very limited. Mr. Speaker, all right, I will give way.
Does my honourable friend not realise that this isn't a zero-sum game? As in any business, if you invest in a new product, you get new customers and you generate economic growth. So we need the investment in the current network for sure, but it's not a reason for not going ahead with High Speed 2.
Well, I say to my honourable friend, I'm all in favour of infrastructure investments. I can think of a whole host of infrastructure investments that £32 billion could be spent on in my constituency, in his constituency, and in many other constituencies. I just don't think this is good value for money, and I don't think it's been thought through. But, Mr. Speaker, I will.
Surely it is a zero-sum game, as the honourable member was saying earlier, because at a time when we in constituencies that are not directly affected by this railway project are nevertheless having to fight to save hospitals from closure, for example, because of cuts, then surely it seems sheer madness to look at this level of investment instead of saving our services.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm delighted I gave way to my honourable friend because I agree with him. Mr. Speaker, put aside my views on the subject. Let me share with you the views of a Manchester-based businessman who came to London on Tuesday for a meeting of the Service Engineering Association, an excellent organisation which looks after the interests of companies which operate in that segment of the manufacturing industry. I asked him how long had it taken to travel down to London that day. He said 2 hours, 8 minutes. He asked me why I wanted to know, and I told him about the debate that was coming up on HS2. His response was that getting to London from Manchester 50 minutes quicker did not really bother him because he used train time to work on his computer and to make calls. He ventured the opinion that if the government had that sort of money to spend, then it should do something about the bottlenecks on the M6, as well as improving the transport infrastructure in many of our cities. Forgive me. His views, Mr. Speaker, are similar to the majority of views expressed to me by business people in my constituency. I've not had one business person who's come to me and said 30 minutes is going to make the difference between my company succeeding and not. It's a fallacy to believe otherwise. There are, however, plenty of my constituents who over the years have come to me and said there should be better public transport facilities within Birmingham, such as an underground system like London, a tram system like those that operate in European cities, improved bus services, or new or reopened train lines and stations within and around the city. Mr. Speaker, these are the type of improvements that the people of Birmingham want, not a vastly expensive link between London and Birmingham. There's one other point I would make very quickly. There's been a great deal of concern expressed by people about the damage this is going to cause in the Chilterns and Warwickshire. And the impression's been given that it's only people who live there who are concerned about those areas. Well, I have to say there are many people living in Birmingham, especially elderly people, in my constituency who've enjoyed the benefits of free or concessionary fares which were introduced by the Labour government, and they travel to the countryside and they enjoy the countryside. And they're certainly not part of the Carpet the Countryside with Concrete Brigade, and neither am I. Mr. Speaker, I draw to an end now. We have had many vanity projects in this country which have been a disaster. I hope the Minister will think again about this project, because if she goes ahead, I believe it will be a disaster.